My neighbor laughed at my old Toyota, so I bought his foreclosed mansion with my rental income. The day I moved into the biggest mansion in the neighborhood, my neighbor Brad was moving out. He wasn't moving by choice. The bank was taking his house. Brad stood by his leased BMW, watching the movers pack his expensive furniture. He looked at me, confused. "I don't understand," Brad said, tears in his eyes. "You drive a 10-year-old Toyota. You wear cheap clothes. You work a normal job. How can you afford my house? I make $300,000 a year." "You made $300,000, I corrected him. "But you spent $400,000. You bought liabilities. I bought assets." Brad laughed at me for years. He called me cheap. He mocked me for living in a small duplex and renting out the other side. He thought wealth was about looking rich. He didn't understand that true wealth is about being free. While he was buying designer watches that lost value every day, I was buying ugly rental properties that paid me while I slept. When the recession hit and he lost his high-paying job, his lifestyle became a trap. But for me, the recession was a sale. Here is the story of how I used the power of cash flow to bankrupt my arrogant neighbor and buy his dream life for pennies on the dollar.
My name is David. 5 years ago, I was 25 years old, and I had a choice. I had just saved up $50,000 from working 2 jobs. My friend Brad, who worked in tech sales, told me to buy a new car. "David," Brad said, showing off his new $80,000 Mercedes, "you need to look successful to be successful. Treat yourself. Get a loan. The payments are only $900 a month." I looked at the Mercedes. It was beautiful. But I saw it for what it really was, a liability. A liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. As soon as you drive a new car off the lot, it loses 20% of its value, and every month it eats your cash. I ignored Brad. Instead of a car, I used my $50,000 as a down payment on a duplex, a house with 2 separate units. It was ugly. It had green carpets and old wallpaper. Brad laughed when he saw it. "You're gonna live in that?" he sneered. "I just bought a 5-bedroom McMansion in the gated community. 0 down payment, interest-only loan. That's how the big boys play." Brad didn't understand the math. His mansion cost him $4,000 a month in mortgage payments. It took money out of his pocket. It was a liability masked as a home. My duplex cost me $2,000 a month in mortgage. But I rented out the other unit to a tenant for $1,500. That meant I only had to pay $500 a month to live. And technically, my tenant was paying down my debt. This is called house hacking. It is the first step to wealth. For the next 2 years, I lived like a monk. I drove my old Toyota, I cooked at home, I took every extra dollar I saved from my low living costs and put it into a separate bank account I called the Freedom Fund. Brad, he was living the high life. He got promoted, he bought a boat, he went on vacations to Dubai and posted everything on Instagram. He looked like a millionaire. "You only live once, David," he told me at a barbecue. "Stop pinching pennies. Invest in crypto. Invest in NFTs. That's where the fast money is." I smiled and nodded. I didn't tell him that I had just used my Freedom Fund to buy a second rental property, a small single-family home that was generating $500 a month in pure cash flow. Cash flow is the money left over after all expenses are paid. It is passive income. It is asset income. By year 3, I owned 3 properties. My tenants were paying for my mortgage, my insurance, and my taxes. I was making $2,000 a month without working. Brad was making $20,000 a month from his job, but his expenses, the car, the boat, the mansion, the credit cards, were $21,000 a month. He was drowning, but he looked like he was swimming. Then the economy turned. The tech bubble burst.
It happened on a Friday via a Zoom call. Brad's company laid off 30% of their workforce. Brad, with his high salary and expensive expense account, was the first to go. He called me that night. He was drunk. "It's fine, Dave," he slurred. "I'll get another job in a week. I'm a top performer.
Headhunters will be begging for me. But they didn't. The job market was frozen. Weeks turned into months. This is the danger of relying on earned income, salary. If you stop working, the money stops coming. But your liabilities, the bank still wants their money every month. Brad's severance package ran out in month 3. In month 4, he missed a payment on the Mercedes. In month 5, he missed a payment on the boat. In month 6, he missed the mortgage payment on his mansion. Meanwhile, my life didn't change. My tenants still needed a place to live. They paid their rent on the 1st. My cash flow was consistent. Because the economy was bad, interest rates went up. People couldn't afford to buy houses, so they rented instead. My rents actually increased. I saw Brad putting for sale signs on his toys. The boat sold at a loss. The Mercedes was repossessed in the middle of the night. I walked over to his house to check on him. The grass was overgrown. The pool was green. The mansion looked tired. Brad opened the door. He looked terrible. "I'm losing the house, David," he whispered. "The bank sent a notice of default. I have 30 days to pay $20,000 in back payments or they foreclose." "Sell it," I suggested. "I can't," he cried. "I bought it with 0 down when the market was high. Now the market has dropped 10%. I owe more than it's worth. I'm underwater. If I sell it, I have to pay the bank money I don't have." This is the trap of negative equity. He didn't own the house. The debt owned him. "I'm sorry, Brad," I said. "Can you lend me money?" he asked. "You have all those rental houses. You're rich." "I'm not rich because I have money, Brad," I said gently. "I'm rich because I don't buy liabilities I can't afford. If I lend you money, you'll just lose it too. You need to let it go." He slammed the door in my face. 30 days later, the house went to auction. I checked my freedom fund. I had been saving for 5 years. I had liquid cash, and because the market was crashing, nobody was buying. It was time to go shopping. The foreclosure auction was held on the steps of the county courthouse. It was a rainy Tuesday. There were only a few people there. Most investors were scared because the news said the real estate market was crashing. They were panic selling. I was panic buying. As Warren Buffett says, be greedy when others are fearful. Brad showed up. He didn't have any money to bid. He just wanted to see who would take his home. He looked tired. He had lost 20 pounds. The auctioneer started the bidding. "Opening bid for 42 Oak Drive. The bank is asking for $400,000. Brad had paid $800,000 for it just 2 years ago. The bank just wanted to recoup the remaining loan balance. They were selling it at a 50% discount. $400,000, I said. "Do I hear 410? The auctioneer asked. Silence. The other investors were looking at their phones, worried about the stock market. Going once, going twice, sold for $400,000 to the gentleman in the Toyota. I wrote the cashier's check for the deposit. I had enough in my freedom fund to put 20% down, that is $80,000. The rest I financed with a new mortgage. Because the purchase price was so low, my monthly mortgage payment on the mansion would be only $2,500. Brad walked up to me as I was signing the papers. "You?" he whispered. "You bought it? But you fix toilets for a living. You're a landlord." "I am an investor, Brad," I said, "and I didn't buy it with my salary. I bought it with the rent checks from my other tenants." "It's not fair," Brad said bitterly. "I worked harder than you. I had a better job." "You worked for money. I made money work for me. Go home, Brad. Pack your things. I'll give you 3 days." He walked away in the rain. He still didn't understand. He thought luck was the reason. He didn't see the 5 years of sacrifice I put in while he was partying in Dubai. 3 days later, I unlocked the front door of the mansion. It was empty. The marble floors echoed. It smelled like expensive cologne and failure. Brad had stripped the place. He took the curtains, the light bulbs, even the toilet paper holders. It didn't matter. I had the structure. Now here is the math. This is the secret of the rich. The mansion cost me $2,500 a month in mortgage, taxes, and insurance. If I paid that from my salary, I would be stressed. I would be a slave to the house, just like Brad was. But I didn't pay it from my salary. I moved out of my duplex unit. I rented it out for $1,500 a month. My second rental property was making $500 profit a month. My third property was making $500 profit a month. Total passive income, $2,500 a month. Do you see it? My tenants were paying exactly $2,500. My new mansion cost exactly $2,500. I was living in a $1 million house for free. My assets were paying for my lifestyle. This is the rule. Buy assets first. Let the assets buy the luxuries. Brad bought the luxury first, and he paid for it with his time. When his time ran out, he lost his job. He lost the luxury. I bought the assets first. Even if I lost my job tomorrow, I would still keep the mansion because my tenants are the ones paying the bill. I spent the next month cleaning the place up. I didn't fill it with expensive furniture on credit. I bought used furniture. I kept my old Toyota in the driveway. It looked funny parked in front of a grand entrance, but that Toyota was my badge of honor. It reminded me that I was free.
6 months passed. The economy started to recover, as it always does. One Friday night, I ordered an Uber to go to a dinner party. I didn't want to drive. A car pulled up. It wasn't a Mercedes. It was a beat-up Honda Civic. I opened the back door and got in. "Heading to downtown?" the driver asked without turning around. I froze. I knew that voice. "Brad?" I asked. The driver turned around. It was him. He looked different. He wasn't wearing a designer suit. He was wearing a t-shirt. He looked humble. "David," he said, his face turning red. "Wow, you live here now?" He looked up at his old house. "Yeah," I said. "How you doing, Brad?" He sighed. "I'm surviving. We moved into a small apartment across town. I'm driving Uber while I study for my real estate license. I realized I didn't know anything about money." He didn't sound arrogant anymore. He sounded hungry. "I saw your Toyota in the driveway," Brad said. "It's still there. You didn't buy a Ferrari?" "No," I smiled. "I bought another duplex last week." Brad laughed. It was a genuine laugh this time. "You know, I used to think you were the loser, but you were the only one playing the game right. Can I ask you something?" "Sure," I said. "Can you teach me?" he asked. "Not how to get rich quick, but how to buy assets, how to house hack. I want to start over the right way." I looked at him. I saw myself 5 years ago. "Turn off the app, Brad," I said. "Come inside. Let's look at some spreadsheets." We spent the next 3 hours going over the math. I showed him the BRRRR method. Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. I showed him how to analyze a deal. Brad didn't get his house back, but he got something better. He got an education. Today, Brad owns his first rental property. It's a small, ugly condo. He drives an old Honda, and he is happier than he ever was in the Mercedes. The lesson is simple. Don't try to look rich. Try to be rich. Being rich isn't about what you spend. It's about what you own. It's about waking up in the morning and knowing that your assets cover your bills. That is true freedom. If you're watching this and you feel stuck in the rat race, stop buying liabilities. Stop trying to impress people who don't care about you. Start buying assets. Start small. Buy a parking spot. Buy a vending machine. Buy a small rental. Just start. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about money, mindset, and freedom.